What's up, everybody? RetroWolf88 here, and I've got a very special video for you today. We're doing something a little bit different on the channel. Today, I'm going to do a discussion video, and I'm going to start doing these from this point forward on a regular basis. And basically, I'm going to pick a topic. I'm going to have a guest in the video because it's no fun if I'm talking to myself, obviously. And we're just going to talk about the topic. So in today's discussion video, the topic is basically why the Nintendo Switch is so awesome. And I'm joined by a very cool guest, Tara. I couldn't think of anybody else better to join me in this video than Tara, but I don't want to speak for her. So Tara, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your history with the Switch, and then we'll get started on the topics.
All right. Hi guys. Tara here. So I got my Switch. It was a Christmas birthday present of 2017, and I've just been kind of collecting and getting things going for it ever since. But it was one of those, it was a must-have purchase for me from the get-go, and we've just kind of been going with it ever since.
Very nice. And how many Switch games are you up to right now?
I did not count before I started this. It's probably like 210.
Very nice. You're catching up to me. I think I'm at 225 right now, so you'll probably pass me before long. I've started to slow down a little bit here lately.
Yeah, I'm kind of transitioning more into a collector than a gamer right now with the summer, and I'm really trying to combat that. And Super Mario Maker 2 is definitely going to be the game for me to push me back into gaming over collecting.
Yeah, it's definitely cheaper that way, that's for sure.
Yes.
And you are in for a treat with Super Mario Maker 2 because actually, a funny story, I'm actually on the struggle bus a little bit this morning because, yesterday I worked my ass off all day from like 8 in the morning to about 11:30 at night. And finally, when I was done, I thought to myself, you know what? I've been working pretty hard today. I feel like I need a break. So I'm going to sit down and play Super Mario Maker. Next thing I know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm still playing Super Mario Maker 2, and went to bed, and then I woke up at 9 this morning. So I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but that's what coffee's for, right?
Right. Coffee's the bare necessity of life.
Yes, absolutely. So fair warning, when you start playing Super Mario Maker 2, don't be surprised if you look at the clock and several hours have gone by.
Yeah, all this Twitter hype. Last night, I was just scrolling through the hashtag Super Mario Maker 2 and liking all these random, really cool fails on it, or these really cool, yeah, people actually completing the board, and it's just crazy. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I love the uniqueness and the creativity that goes into Super Mario Maker, and I completely think all the hype's worth it right now. It looks absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. It is an absolute blast. And there are a lot of creative and unique people out there. But speaking of creative and unique, why don't we get into the topics about the Switch? You ready?
Ready?
All right. So, and just to let everybody know kind of how we're going to do this, we have a list of talking points. And we're going to go through each talking point. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start a topic, and then Tara will jump in and give her thoughts on it. And then on the next topic, she'll start. I'll jump in and give my thoughts on it. We're going to kind of alternate back and forth like that until we get through all the topics. So I guess I'll start us off on the first topic. And the first topic, and this is kind of the first section of the discussion video, and it's about the console itself. So I want to talk about the versatility of the Nintendo Switch and just how innovative it is. The Switch is awesome, and it's awesome for several different reasons. And one of those reasons is just how versatile it is. I mean, we've got a home console that we can play on our TV. We can take it out of the dock, immediately pick up our game right where we left off, go to the couch, kick back on the couch, or go to your bed, kick back on your bed, and continue to play that game. Or if you're done playing on the TV and you need to go somewhere, say you're going to the doctor's office or whatever, just pull it out of the dock, throw it in a case, take it with you. And not only that, but it's very innovative in its versatility in that you have the Joy-Cons, which attach to the side of the Switch, but you can set the Switch up, pull the Joy-Cons off, and for most games that have a two-player mode or more, you can hand somebody a Joy-Con and they can play a game with you. And it's really awesome how versatile the Switch is. So you've got 3 different playing modes, as most people know: TV mode, handheld mode, and tabletop mode. Now, I'm sure different people use these different modes in different frequencies. Like, for example, I mostly play in handheld mode, and then TV mode is probably the second. Every now and then I'll play in tabletop mode. But it's just really amazing to have a console with this much versatility and this many options in how to play by yourself or how to play with other people. And it's just one of the many things that make the Switch one of my favorite consoles of all time. And Tara, I want to turn it over to you and see what you have to say about this topic.
Yeah, so it's actually funny that you say you play mainly in handheld mode because I dock mine to the TV. I would say roughly 90% of my gameplay is spent on my TV and not in handheld. And I feel like a little bit of a great debate back and forth on Twitter between like who does what's better. I mean, but at the end of the day, when it comes to versatility on a gaming system, like it's so cool we can have like the debate of handheld versus dock versus tabletop and how you can play. Like, I really think Nintendo did something that none of the other gaming companies would have even have attempted to do. Like, I don't think we would have seen Sony or Xbox put out a system that you could really do the docking and the handheld with. So I think it's really cool how Nintendo's always innovative. They're always trying to do new things. And when they give us these new systems, you know, sometimes they do a little bit better than the other, but this is obviously the system that has pretty much brought a fresh breath back into Nintendo, and people are absolutely loving it. That's why we're having a discussion here today. But when it comes to the overall versatility of the Switch, it just blows my mind. Like, it's easily one of my favorite, if not my favorite system I've ever played on.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It's definitely my favorite. And prior to the Switch, the GameCube was actually my favorite console, just because it's the one that I kind of grew up with the most. And that's why I'm going for a complete collection for the GameCube. But now the Switch has taken that top spot, and it's because of all the things that you just said. And I want to touch on what you said about you play TV mode 90% of the time, and that's one of the great things about this console is everybody uses it differently, and that's okay. And I actually, just like you, whenever I first got my Switch, I started out playing in TV mode most of the time, probably about the same as you, 90%, until I got this grip for the Switch called the Satisfy Grip. And this is not, I'm not doing a product endorsement here. Well, I guess I kind of am, but
But you're not getting paid to. You're
no,
doing
no,
it
no.
because you like it.
Right, not getting paid to. I actually did a review on that accessory on the channel, which was pretty fun. But it's a great grip. And prior to getting that grip, I really didn't play in handheld mode much unless I had to. But as soon as I got that grip, playing in handheld mode was so comfortable. And have you ever heard of a Papazon chair or a Papazon couch?
Are those like the ones made out of bamboo?
Yeah, yeah, they're like
Yeah,
wicker.
it's the giant circle thing that
Yeah,
you sink into.
exactly. Very,
Yeah,
very,
buddy.
yeah, very comfortable. So what I do is I'll play it in handheld mode, and I'll just throw myself down on the Papazon couch, and I'll have an ottoman to prop my legs up on. And let me tell you something, that is my favorite way to play the Switch right there. It's just amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's you can't do that. And look, let me take a step back and give a disclaimer. I love PS4. It's definitely my second favorite console currently right now. I play all the time. I like the Xbox One. It's decent. I have both a PS4 and an Xbox One, but you cannot do any of this stuff we're talking about today with a PS4 or an Xbox One. They just do not have that versatility. They're just another box that's more powerful than the one that they came out with previously.
So you were just talking about your grips that you have for your Switch.
Yes.
And I think so this is going to kind of transition us into the fun factors and the coolness of the Switch.
Okay.
But for me, when it comes to the fun factors and coolness for the Switch, I am an accessory girl. Like, I'm not like typical in a lot of manners when it comes to a lot of things with life. But that's just me. I'm a
Hmm.
black sheep. I've been a black sheep my whole life, and I embrace it. But my accessories are on par 90% of the time. And my accessories for the Nintendo Switch literally bring me life because I love customizing things to me. So like I was on Wish a couple days ago just scrolling through endlessly at cool different accessories for the Switch. Like I've got different thumb grips. I have, oh Lord, way too many controllers. Easily 5 different pairs of Joy-Cons, wireless Pro controller. I've got 2 of the wireless GameCube controllers, 2 of the Pokeball controllers, definitely the NES controllers. And like the thing is, I use all of them. It's not like I have a blue set of Joy-Cons and then, 5 other ones and I only use the blue. Like I pair my Joy-Cons up to match whatever color game that I'm playing. uh I have 2 different docks. So like docks are all around my house. Every TV has a dock. And I just not even to mention like silicone grip covers to go over my Joy-Cons with different matching thumb grips. And honestly, I only pre-ordered Saints Row so I could get the purple thumb grips.
Very nice.
Coincidentally, it happens to be an amazing game, but
Yes,
I was in it for the thumb grips.
nothing wrong with that at all.
So when it comes to like the Switch, I love how very unique and individualized everything is. Everybody's collection, of course, when you collect, like your collection is yours, it's different and it's unique, but like just being involved in the community on Twitter, like you truly see how unique the Switch is. There's so many different accessories, like there's so much available for this one system that it blows my mind. And I don't see like that when it comes to any other system. But because you can, have it handheld or docked or, whatever the case may be, it's just opened up this new world of accessory buying for a console that I've never had before.
Yeah, you are 100% right about that. And that's something that I really didn't even think about. So I'm glad that you brought that up. The Switch is just perfect for all kinds of different accessories. I mean, and take for example the grip that I mentioned earlier, but also I have a stand for the Switch that I use if I ever play in tabletop mode. It's a really nice stand. It's about probably, I would say, 4 inches wide, 5 or 6 inches long. It's pretty big, but it's very sturdy. It has 3 different viewing angles, and it will hold your Switch, and it also doesn't cover up the charging port in case you need to charge. So it's perfect for playing in tabletop mode because I mean, let's face it, the stand that's actually on the Switch is not the greatest. It's usable, but yeah, it's not the greatest. But the beautiful thing about the Switch and all these accessories is people can create stand accessories to mitigate that issue. But also, you were talking about personalizing and having, kind of individualizing your own Switch. But I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of my Switch or not, but I've got decals on it. So on the actual Switch itself, on a pair of my Joy-Cons, and on the dock also, I've got a decal on it that makes it look like an old Nintendo Entertainment System.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's very, very cool because I love retro games. So for me, having my Switch look like an NES, have that kind of color scheme, it's just really nice and nostalgic for me, and it looks really cool too. But there are countless decals that you can buy, all different kinds of colors and themes. So it's just really awesome to have all these choices of different accessories to really increase the fun factor of the Switch and make it even cooler than it already is. So
When you brought up stands, I didn't even think to like mention. So I have my dock sits on like a little entertainment system stand that holds 10 games.
mhm.
So like the games that I'm most recently playing, if I don't auto put the case back on my shelf, because let's get real, like it stays as organized as it can,
Right.
but I definitely reorganize before I take most of my pictures. Um, so I'll put like the games that I'm currently playing and stuff like that on my stand, but actual chargers for like all my wireless controllers, I have 3 different ones that I'm currently looking at right now. One for the Pokeball, one for my Pro controller, and one just for Joy-Cons.
Wow.
Like, and it's literally, I feel like limitless with all the stuff that's out there. Like it, and it blows my mind. It really does, because there's never, I will make this statement. That's how confident I am in it. Like there's never been this many accessories available for any other kind of device. And it's brilliant
Hmm.
because like you have to think about like even so like technology in general. So like this isn't going to be like much of a stretch, but it might be a little bit of a tangent. But that's the kind of world we live in, you know, like we have our technology devices and we hold them dear. We live off of our phones, you know, like, and we have to make sure, like it's the type of mentality, there we go, that we have built for ourselves. Like we have our phones, we have our Bluetooth headset for our phones, we have our case for our phone, we have our cute different unique chargers for our phones. And Nintendo's almost bridging a gap between like gaming and technology that wasn't necessarily there in the quite the same way before. And we see it with all these different things that is available for the Switch, and it's crazy.
Very, very well said. That is 100% right. And another thing that I thought of, and you had mentioned that this is, this gaming console probably has more accessories than any that came before it. I agree, and I think probably the closest console that came to this, I would say, is probably the Wii. With all the different things that you could get to
Yeah,
put the Wii mode in. Um, but the Switch is just taking it to a whole new level. But the great thing about it is most of the accessories are not really gimmicky. I mean, most of the accessories make sense. They serve a purpose, and they're actually really cool. But I got to thinking, you know, and this kind of could bleed into a later topic, but that's okay. You know how on the side of the Switch you've got the rails that the Joy-Con slide onto?
yeah,
There are really, yeah, there's like limitless possibilities of additional different kinds of controllers that Nintendo or other third-party manufacturers could make. They could slide onto the Joy-Con rails, just like Nintendo releasing the NES controllers for online members that you could buy that slide onto the Joy-Con rails. But I'm thinking also like GameCube controllers. If Nintendo ever releases GameCube games, maybe we could get some GameCube Joy Cons. That sure they would be big and bulky, but I would use them. As much as I love the GameCube, if I could have some Joy Cons that feel like the left and right side of a GameCube controller and throw those on my Switch, I'm gonna be one happy dude. So yeah, I see a lot of possibilities there with additional types of controllers. So I think that's pretty cool. What about you?
the controllers is definitely, I'm a huge controller person, so I'm willing to try the the majority. Like I will product test and like put it out there like this was awesome, try it, or you know, I feel like this could have worked better. So I think like we're there, just
Mhm.
not everything's out yet. So even if it's, because I know you play mostly in handheld, but I have the GameCube wireless controller. I cannot wait to play Luigi's Mansion 3 with it, just for the simple fact of the nostalgia of playing Luigi's Mansion the first time on the GameCube with that controller. Like I'm going to have this amazing moment with my Switch, and it's going to be so nostalgic and beautiful, but I can see them doing a lot of stuff that's more interactive in the terms you're talking about. I mean, we're seeing that with like the Labo. The Labo makes the, granted that's more like tabletop or docked than handheld, but they have all those interactive things. Let's not forget things like Toki, where it came with its own little arcade to sit your Switch in to be
Mhm.
able to actually play the game. We're there. We're definitely there, and it's exciting for me to see what kind of fresh new ideas they'll continue to bring to the Switch as the years go on.
Absolutely. And you just inspired me to buy a wireless GameCube controller for the Switch because the thought of playing Luigi's Mansion 3 with a GameCube controller, you're right, that sounds beautiful. So thank you for that.
Yeah, doesn't it? I'm
Yes.
so, listen, I bought two of those. I have a gold one and a purple one. And as I see them on sale, I will buy the other colors. I play with that controller almost as much as I play with my Pro controller. Smash is absolutely amazing. Animal Crossing, I first played Animal Crossing on the GameCube with a GameCube controller. I know for sure I want to play the new Animal Crossing game with the same type of controller. It's still, because your mind
Mhm.
just remembers where those buttons are, and I can almost use the buttons on that just as quickly as I can on a Joy-Con. It's one of my favorite controllers.
Yep, it is. It's my one of my favorites as well. I think the GameCube had one of the most comfortable controllers ever made, in my opinion. And it was just a very well designed controller, really unique looking. And again, not to bash on Sony or anything, because like I said, I like the PlayStation 4 a lot, but their controller is sort of generic. It's a little small. It's not the most comfortable controller in the world. It's not bad, but to me, it doesn't hold a candle to the GameCube controller or even the Pro controller on the Switch. I think we're ready to move on to the next topic, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start this one off. And so the next talking point for the video is how perfect the Switch is for people with busy lives. So the Xbox One and the PS4 are really great for people that don't have busy lives, because people that don't have busy lives have time to sit on a couch and sit in front of the TV and play games all the time. Now, I still play my PS4 whenever I can find time. I'm actually playing Days Gone right now. Fantastic game, by the way. But the Switch is beautiful because if you're a busy person, and I'm sure, Tara, I'm sure you're very busy as I am, with various things going on in life while like working full time and friends and family and things like that. So if you're a busy person and you live a busy lifestyle, the Switch is perfect because if you've got, let me just throw a scenario out there. Let's say you're a parent and you've got kids, right? And you're sitting in front of the TV and you're playing Super Mario Odyssey, and you've been playing for about 15 minutes. Your kids come home from school and they want to watch a cartoon on Cartoon Network or something. I don't really know what kids watch these days, so I'm just going to go with Cartoon Network. And you don't want your kid to pitch a fit, and so you decide, okay, I'm going to let them watch TV. Well, guess what? With the Switch, all you got to do is pull it out of the dock, and while your kids watch whatever they want to watch, you can continue playing your game. Same goes for if you've got a doctor's appointment. You're sitting at home, you're playing a game. It's time to leave for the doctor's appointment. You're going to be waiting in the doctor's office for a while. Take your Switch with you, pause your game, put it in sleep mode, pull it out of the dock, take it with you. When you get to the doctor's office, you get to pick up right where you left off in that game immediately. So this is a console that was made for people with busy lives, and Nintendo really nailed it. And I think they knew that they had a winner on their hands, because now more than ever in the United States and other countries, people are just going a million miles an hour, all the time, just busy, 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 do this, do that. So it's very, very awesome to have a console where you can play full AAA console games from first party and third party developers. So yeah, the Switch is just, it's really perfect for people that are busy. If I did not have the Switch, I wouldn't have time to really play games that much. But because I can pull it out of the dock and play it anywhere I want, I can find 10 minutes, 15 minutes here and there to sit down and play a game, no matter what situation that I'm in. And I really think that that is a beautiful thing. So, Tara, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, so I 100% agree with what, like, a lot of the talking points that you had. So when I think about the ease of convenience of the Switch, and one of its greatest talking points, it is the fact that it is portable. So the other day before work, I got my oil change and I brought my Switch with me because I knew I would be waiting for a little bit. I wouldn't be waiting for long, but long enough that I could get a little bit of gameplay in. I take it with me to work on my lunch break. I'll play. Usually Tetris 99. I just turn my hotspot on my phone real quick and see how mad I can get before going back into work, because that game just seems impossible
Hmm.
nowadays. Usually every Friday, I spend the night with my best friend Amanda, and I'll pack up my Switch and we'll play usually Mario Kart, Mario Party. I haven't brought Crash Racing over yet, but I definitely think that's one we're going to get lost into. And I used to hate packing up whatever console I had to bring it somewhere else because I was afraid I would damage it.
Hmm.
Um, I was afraid, like my bag would get hit or it was bulky and it just wasn't convenient to take places. Or, like my boyfriend back in high school, like he'd bring over his Xbox and it's literally like you have a duffel bag filled with stuff. I'm the type of person I'd always add in like a little blanket for some cushion and stuff. But the Switch, even as a unit, is very portable if you're taking it somewhere else. So all the time, like my dearest friends know I collect. They know I will bring my Switch for any kind of party or event for us to play. All you have is the dock. You have the little system, which I have probably 5 different carrying cases for because I'm an accessory person. And just all the different controllers that just kind of toss in the bag. And I know some people say like they're the Joy-Cons they've had problems with. I'll tell you what, my Joy-Cons have been through some hard gameplay and not a single one of them drift.
Same with me.
Maybe it's because I have multiple sets that I like, exchange out and things like that. But like everything I own gets usage and it still looks brand new. And for it to be so convenient for as busy as I am, like any other, and this is why I have the hardest time like buying an Xbox One or a PlayStation, is because I just don't see myself playing it as much as I play my Switch because I am so busy. But I have the convenience of being able to take the Switch with me to get in extra gameplay where I wouldn't get with another console.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so I love some of the stuff that you just said because it was actually some things that I hadn't even thought about, and this is why I like having a discussion like this with other people because we can kind of, as we're talking through this, make points that maybe the other person didn't think about and kind of go back and forth with it. So it's very fun. But you had stated how easy it is to take the Switch over to a friend's house, and you are 100% right about that because I remember back in the day, anytime I used to, oh yeah, anytime I used to spend the night with a friend, I would always bring my GameCube. And so I'd have to unplug everything from the TV, pack it in a big backpack and decide which games I want to bring because, you don't have a lot of room in a backpack after you've put the GameCube in there. So you got to kind of, choose wisely. And it was just a big hassle. But with the Switch, I mean, you don't really have to worry about that, especially if you're going to somebody's house that has a dock. If they have a dock too, all you got to do is
Mm-hmm.
drop your Switch in their dock and you're good to go. And that is a really cool thing. And you had mentioned earlier that you have multiple docks in the house on different TVs. So that also kind of plays into this because, if you're playing in one room and for whatever reason you need to switch to another room, if you have multiple docks, you can easily do that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my biggest thing with my current living situation is just my mom kicking me out of the living room with my Switch so she can play hers. And then it's so easy. All you do is pick it up and put it in another one. My TV's smart. Like it
Hmm.
even auto changes the input for me. I just
Yes.
have to make sure it's on. Like
Right.
it's so easy to be a gamer, where like back in the day, you had to make sure you're on channel 3. If you lost your remote to your TV, good luck getting to channel 3.
Yep.
All the different wires, the different inputs. I actually went to plug my 64 to my TV the other day
Hmm.
and I realized my nice curved Samsung TV doesn't even have a red, yellow, and white input.
Oh yeah, yeah. They stopped adding them to some of the newer
Yeah.
TVs. Yep.
Which I'll get the converter and everything, But like the whole point of this is to complain about all the wires, because
Right.
if I do want to play the 64, the NES, or the Super Nintendo, I have to dig through my wire bin,
Hmm.
untangle whatever wires it is that I need to use, take those, hopefully I can find the power cord, take that out to the living room, find my controller, and then by the time I finally get to the game, like I've already invested in a decent amount of time.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So I think that this is a good transition to the next topic about how smooth and seamless it is to play games on the Switch. So you want to go ahead and start us off on that?
Sure. So really the overall like playability on the Switch is very, very easy. The only problem that I have when it comes to my Switch is always remembering to close out my software. Like
Hmm.
when it comes to changing out a game, sometimes, don't close it out. I just pop the cartridge out, and then like my Switch gets mad at me.
Oh yeah.
Uh, like, don't do this, don't do this. But even when it comes to so I love the actual layout
Hmm.
of the interactive screen on the Switch, but between like physical and digital content and stuff like that, like I've never, and maybe it's because I haven't played like Troll and I or anything, but I've never had like significant lag issues
Right.
in the actual playability of a game.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about the Switch, and I'm going to kind of go back to the PS4 and Xbox One, and again, people out there that are big PS4 and Xbox fans, I'm not bashing the consoles. Like I said, love PS4, like the Xbox, but let's be honest with ourselves. If you want to play a PS4 game, a physical PS4 game or a physical Xbox One game, you pop the disc in, you have to wait a long time for the game to install onto the console. And then you have to wait on whatever patches or updates have to download and install onto the game. And then finally, you're going to get to play the game. And just to give you a good example of how much that sucks, when I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 last year, I literally had to wait 4 hours before I could play it between the installation and the update that had to download and install. I had to wait probably 3 to 4 hours. And I was really looking forward to that game. So that was, that really sucked having to wait that long. But with the Nintendo Switch, you just pop the cartridge in and you're good to go. You might have to download an update, but you don't have to download the update. You can still start the game and play it without downloading the update. Of course, I always recommend downloading the updates, but you don't have to. You can pop the cartridge in and boom, you're playing the game. It's beautiful. And you can easily put the Switch in sleep mode just by pressing the power button on the Switch itself or holding down, I believe, the home button until the menu pops up and then hit sleep. It's not quite as quick to do that on the PS4 or Xbox One. You've got to, when you power it back up from sleep mode, you got to wait a few seconds for it to power up. Whereas with the Switch, you press the power button, boom, you're back on instantly. You have to press a button on your controller 3 times, but still very quick, very snappy. The UI is very quick and snappy. It's beautiful in its simplicity. I do wish that we could organize games, especially if you're like me and Tara and you have a ton of games on your Switch. It would be nice to be able to organize the icons, maybe put them in a folder, but that's just a minor complaint, and it's something that Nintendo could throw in later on down the line. It doesn't take away from how smooth and seamless it is to play games on the Switch, and I just love that. Me and Tara, we grew up in the days where you pop the game in and you're playing with the GameCube and, the game in, boom, you're playing a game. You didn't have to worry about downloading updates. You didn't have to worry about installing the game. And Nintendo is still doing that to this day with the Switch, and it's just awesome. All right, we'll jump into the next topic, and that is the joys of playing AAA gaming experiences portably. So I think that there have been devices in the past where you could sort of do this. Like I believe the PlayStation Vita, through Wi-Fi, you could stream PS4 games onto the PlayStation Vita, but you had to have a Wi-Fi connection. You had to have a good Wi-Fi connection. And then I think there are some tablets that you can play some AAA games on. But none of these things are as convenient and smooth and amazing as playing AAA games portably on the Nintendo Switch. I mean, what an amazing world we live in when we can play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey or Skyrim or Doom on a freaking portable gaming system and still have an amazing experience with it. Yes, I realize that some third party games that have to, you know, downgrade the game just a little bit, like with Doom, the resolution's a little bit lower and it's 30 frames per second instead of 60, but it's still incredibly fun. I played a few missions on Doom on the Switch and I had a great time. It still felt very fast, fluid, and very intense. My palms were sweating while playing that game. Very intense game. But what I'm getting at is it's just really amazing being able to play these AAA, big budget, first party and third party gaming experiences on the go and without with very little compromise in that experience. And I just love that about the Switch. How about you, Tara?
I really do. So I think when we talk about the Switch, it is what ties in the overall gaming experience. And I mean, ultimately that's why we're talking today, because our gaming experience here in 2019 has been revolutionized in a way that I don't really ever think I saw possible. Um, and really well, let's see. I don't know if we'll get to this later, but when we talk about the portability of the gaming experience, my biggest want from Nintendo right now is like a really nice VR. So I bought the Labo VR
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not disappointed with it at all. Like Breath of the Wild has been awesome in it. I really need to play that more.
Mm-hmm.
I played some of the Super Mario Odyssey content and I really feel like it's been a tease for some kind of huge game portability play
Mm-hmm.
like later on down the road. And I've got like little different conspiracy theories that probably don't make sense when I say them out loud, but it's been so revolutionizing that I I can't even think of everything in the future that we'll even have when it comes to it. Like you said, we have these titles and things that we just never really imagined like it would get there, but we're there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just made gaming, or it's brought gaming into a whole new light that I don't really think anybody could have guessed we would be at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm glad you brought up the VR thing. Yeah, I wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit too. So I also have the Labo VR kit, and I put the actual headset together. I got the kit that comes with the headset and the gun. I haven't put the gun together yet, but I did put the headset together, and I tried out some of the little VR mini games that are included. I've not tried out Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey yet. I really need to get around to doing that, but it's really cool that Nintendo they're dipping their toes in the VR and you know, it may not be the most high-end VR experience out there. It's still really cool, really fun, a very cheap way to get into a little bit of VR, honestly. And I've had a good time with it so far, and I haven't even tried the Zelda or Mario Odyssey. And they also have a mode in Super Smash Bros. Now where you can put the VR headset on. So it's really cool that Nintendo is taking some of their older first party games on the Switch and incorporating it into this Labo VR. And I 100% think that you might be onto something. I think that they've got big plans in the future for VR because, I mean, the Switch is just it's perfect for it. And and we'll get into this more in a later topic, but whatever future iterations they come out with for the Switch that are more powerful, we may be able to get some more high end VR experiences out of the Switch with an actual headset instead of one made out of cardboard. Now, I don't know if you wanted to touch on your conspiracy theories that you mentioned or not. Do you want to touch on those?
Will you let me?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
I will gladly share. And I
Okay.
don't know if it makes any sense because I haven't like really verbalized it to anybody else.
Hmm.
I kind of talked about it with two of my friends on Twitter the other day, but I was drunk on a tangent. And that's when like this idea first came to me, but I don't think I could properly explain it. So, Nintendo has been notorious, at least for me and my life, for Easter eggs,
Yeah.
for like incorporating something into either a game or their system or a product, and we didn't know the context behind it until later. And then later it made so much sense. So right now we have the VR, and they tested, and so it's smart when you think of it like business wise and marketing wise. So I bought the Nintendo Labo VR kit because there's a Nintendo rep and a GameStop, and he had this huge table of Nintendo Switch stuff. And then I was talking to him about my collection and Bowser being in the castle now, which, he's in marketing and
Hmm.
sales, which is, what he oversaw before becoming the president. So he had nothing but great things to say about him. But anyways, so they're pushing sales for this VR, and they put two, debatably, of the best Nintendo Switch games. So we have Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. We have some Smash integration now.
Hmm.
But what if, dun dun dun, what if we're seeing Breath of the Wild playable on the VR? Because when the sequel of Breath of the Wild comes out, we will be seeing an actual good VR headset to play it in.
Ooh, I like that.
Doesn't it make so it makes sense, like,
Hmm.
I'm not going to say it was aliens. But I mean, to me it makes sense, like when it comes to them testing, because to me that's what this VR Labo cardboard headset we have now
Hmm.
is a test to see who out of the Nintendo fandom is a fan of VR. How will VR play on the Switch? And how do we test this without ultimately investing a lot of money into it?
That's a very valid point. It does seem like it's a good proof of concept for Nintendo, trying to see how the market responds to it. And so far, I think the market has responded positively to it. I don't know what the sales are. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, no, I don't know the sales off the top of my head, but like, I don't think it's done bad as a product. Like, it
Right.
hasn't flopped, It's just, it's kind of out there. I don't think it's doing incredibly well, but it's not doing like bad either, And I think a lot of that's because of how they presented it and when they released it. So I anticipate around the holiday season, we'll probably see like a sale on it, to kind of increase parents to get it for kids, or people who wouldn't buy it normally would buy it because it's on sale. And I think we'll start seeing more more content that will be playable via VR.
Yeah, I think so too. And and again, we're going to touch on this more later, but I think what you're saying about the Breath of the Wild sequel, that makes sense to me because, my theory is the sequel to Breath of the Wild will release 2020, holiday 2020. That's kind of my theory. It just makes sense.
That
Um,
would be the closest.
Right, right. So, and I could see Nintendo also releasing a pro version of the Switch, a more powerful version of the Switch, sometime between now and then as well. I know there are a lot of rumors going on right now about the Switch Mini. It seems like that's definitely coming soon. And then there's rumors about a Switch Pro as well. So, yeah, I could see Breath of the Wild, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, maybe launching alongside the Pro version of the Switch or whatever they end up calling it. It's more powerful, and maybe even a actual dedicated headset to slide the new model of the Switch into to be able to play the new Breath of the Wild entirely in VR. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, and who's to say that they would even do a headset that you have the Switch in? I could see it too. And that's the tricky thing with the Switch, and I think that's why it's taken us as long as it has to see some kind of VR. It's just that Nintendo and Apple are very similar in my mind when it comes to like who they are as a business and their line of technology. So like, just for a comparison, Apple, it takes them much longer to put out a product, but when they do, the product is the most efficient and it has the best quality, well, at least in my
Hmm.
opinion, in comparison to similar products. So the VR, I could see if we have a pro console, it's possible that it's going to dock differently,
Hmm.
or it might just sit into who's to say how that would work? But I
Right.
could see it being different. And I could also see a VR plugging directly into the dock itself and then some way being connected to a headset. I don't
Mhm.
think necessarily that the Switch would have to sit into a headset. I think it's possible, that we could see a headset that just gets like put on that's connected via wires to the dock.
That's a
But
good point.
it's hard to say because there's so many different possibilities with the Switch.
Yeah. Yep, that is true. That's a very good point. All right, so the next topic that we're going to talk about is a big one and a very important topic to me when it comes to gaming and consoles in general. And that's just how great and perfect the Switch is for local couch multiplayer and co-op. So, Tara, you want to go ahead and start this one off?
Yeah, sure. So I think when we talk about the whole gaming aspect and all the different things that you can do on the Switch, like this is one of the really cool under talked about things in my opinion, because I don't think with the with how technology is nowadays that we actually have the opportunity to do much like couch play or side by side play, which is really weird for me to say because when I was little, yeah, I'm one of four siblings, so we all usually had our own gaming system. And I remember like Game Boy Color back in the day to change Pokemon. We had to have our, Game Boys like
Yeah.
wired together, even with the DS and all the different, things where you had the chat room, you could talk back and forth. You had all these different games where, I kind of feel like it's changed a little bit nowadays with online gameplay. Like, you don't have to be next to somebody, but, Nintendo's doing a good job of constantly integrating the different things we can do. So like nostalgia feeling to me, like it's awesome that I can play Super Mario Party either on the TV docked with
Hmm.
two players or side by side with two people,
Hmm.
or I can even do multiplayer online and just join into a mini chat room. And it's really cool how like that's still a thing, even though I don't want to say it's dying out, but it's still thought about and considered. And it's cool how there's still fun, unique things that you will only experience by doing gameplay like that.
Yes, absolutely. So, in kind of piggybacking off what you just said, I want to kind of let's just go through a list here, just real quick, of the different ways that you can play the Switch multiplayer or co-op. So, of course, you've got online, and well, actually, before I get into this list, let me just say this. So, um, I believe Nintendo is pretty much the king of local multiplayer. They struggle with online. I mean, that's just the fact right now. They are getting better. I see them making improvements. They still got a lot of catching up to do, but I have no doubt that they will get there. So everybody just be patient with Nintendo. Give them some time to work it out. They're going to get better at online. But just to kind of go through the list here of the different ways that you can play. So of course you can play with other people online. You can play with other people most games on the same TV, local multiplayer, local co-op with different controllers. You can also play with people on the same Switch in tabletop mode as well. It's not, you know, it's a little hard to play that way with the screen being as small as it is, but it's really cool that we have that option. If you're out and about and you've got Mario Kart with you and you've got a friend with you and you want to play some Mario Kart, you can put the Switch in tabletop mode, hand them a Joy-Con, and you can play Mario Kart. So that's really cool. And then the other way that you can play the Switch with other people, which is something you cannot do with the Xbox One or the PS4, is if people have multiple Switches. Say, let's just take. I'm just going to take Minecraft for example. I'm not the biggest Minecraft fan in the world, but just for the sake of example, if people have, you know, say you're with some friends and three other friends, four total, and you've all got a Switch and you want to play some Minecraft, you can actually everybody play on their own Switch connect together and play Minecraft with each person having their own Switch, their own screen. And that's just not something that you can do with the other consoles. And it's really, really cool that we have all these different options for how we want to play with other people. Whereas with the Xbox One and the PS4, you have two options. You play online, or if you're lucky, the game will have local co-op and you can play local co-op. But most games, you can only play online with other people. So, but Nintendo, they're really holding on to local couch co-op, and I hope that they continue to do so, because and I realize probably a vast majority of gamers nowadays prefer playing online, and I get it. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm old school. I grew up in the days of couch multiplayer, and that's what I love the most because, to me, in my opinion, it's more enjoyable actually playing a game with somebody in person and being able to interact with them in person than it is online. But sometimes you have to play with people online because they may be states away or on the other side of the world or whatever. But I guess after all this rambling, what I'm really trying to say is that the Switch has it's like a Swiss Army knife of playing with other people. You just have so many different options, so many different ways to play, and it's just a really beautiful thing.
Well, and I think that even goes into what makes the Switch so awesome because all these different gameplays really fits all different age types, all different user types. And I'm sure like just culturally, like different people are more likely to, or not even like culturally, but like different people in different groups or
Mhm.
settings and things like that. I'm sure more elementary school or middle schoolers will play in local play, or just like it's another thing that makes the Switch perfect for all ages.
Absolutely. Another thing that's really cool, and this is just a little side note. On the Switch, there are some games that you can play locally with 8 players, like Super Bomberman R, for example, or Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. And that's just not really something you can do on the other consoles that I know of. Is play games with up to 8 people. So if you have 4 sets of Joy-Con, you can hand everybody a Joy-Con, and you can play Super Bomberman R with up to 8 people. And I've done that before, and it's absolute insanity. It's a blast. So if anybody has Super Bomberman R and you have 7 other people around and enough Joy-Cons to pass around to everybody, I highly recommend that you try that out. Have you ever done that, Tara?
No, I have the game and it's one that hasn't been inside my
Mm-hmm.
Switch yet. But
Gotcha.
that really like makes me want to try. I don't know anybody else like near me who has the actual game.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. We've got some local gaming bars nearby and I might be able to put something together.
Yeah, you should try that. It's really fun. It's very, very chaotic playing that game with 8 people. It's hysterical. I mean, we were all laughing our asses off while we played. It was a good time.
I'm sure. No, yeah, like when it comes to stuff like that, the closest thing like I've played with multiple people would be like that Jackbox. Have you played that yet
Oh
at
yeah.
all?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm
Yeah,
actually playing
so
that tonight with some people. So
listen, it's so much fun.
it is. It's hilarious, especially if you have a group of people with dirty minds. It gets a little out of hand.
Dude, those are the best rap battles to be had though.
Oh, the rap
In
battle
all
game.
honesty.
Yes, the rap battle game is probably one of my favorites. I love that game.
Dude, sometimes it just really throws you off. Like you weren't expecting that. Like you were mentally prepared for one thing, and then the
Hmm.
game just completely like sidelines you and takes you another way. And it's just like,
Yes.
what?
Yep. Yep. It's a good time. Good time. So I guess we'll jump into the next topic here. So we're going to talk about just kind of touch on some theories that we have or some hopes or dreams that we have for the future iteration of the Nintendo Switch and what Nintendo could do to improve upon the Switch. And you know, I really think, and Tara, I'm sure you'll probably agree with me. I think that Nintendo will probably, of course, we've got the Switch Mini coming more than likely, and probably a Switch Pro. But I think even beyond that, I think Nintendo is going to continue with the Switch brand and come out with a maybe a Switch 2 for the next console generation or whatever, because it would really make sense for them to do that because of what a hit the Switch is. And, they've got this great momentum going, and it would really make sense for them to continue that train. But some of the things that I would like to see out of a new iteration of the Switch, whether it's the Switch Pro or a future Switch 2, for example, um, I'd like to see, I guess I'll say, slightly better battery life, even though, to be honest with you, I've never had an issue with my battery running out, because I'm usually always in a situation where I can charge my Switch if I have to. So that's never really been an issue for me personally. But it still wouldn't hurt for the battery life to be a little bit better. I'd like to see a little bit more internal memory, because 32 gigabytes nowadays, that's just not enough. And I know we can expand it with micro SD cards, and that's great. But I think that for future iterations, Nintendo should definitely increase the internal memory. I'd like to see, as I touched on earlier, I'd really like to have the ability to organize my games on the Switch in the UI, whether it's sorting them A to Z or being able to put them in whatever order I want or put them in folders. I think that would be really, really great. Definitely would like Nintendo to continue to improve upon the online, which I have no doubt that they will. Tara, I'm going to turn it over to you while I think a little bit more on what else I'd like to see.
Yeah, of course. So, when it comes to an overall, so this was, I'm glad we're talking about this, because this was a topic of discussion before, in one of the DMs before Nintendo had their direct, just a couple months ago, talking about,
Yes.
what could we potentially be hearing. And, everybody wants to talk about these rumors of like a mini and a pro and them running at different like frame rates and stuff like that. But realistically, they're not going to build, at least in my mind, it doesn't make sense business wise for them to build like a pro and a mini for the pro to run better, because why would somebody make a game for the pro, or like why would somebody make a game that's only going to sell on one system, when you, like you said, we could have a mini, we could have a pro, we have the current console, we could have a second console. Like, why would you make a game that runs just on one?
Right.
So like that, I debugged that right away. Like, I just didn't make sense. But again, when we talk about technology and the overall frame of mind many people have when it comes to technology nowadays, like a mini is essentially, in my mind, going to be the cost-effective model.
Right.
Like it's going to be the, if it happens, the model that, like, kids who couldn't really afford gaming, or their parents couldn't afford gaming, like it could potentially put systems in those hands, and then, like, of course, you always have a high-end model. So like, think of Apple, their current series of phones out right now. You have an XR, which is the cost-effective, the economical budget model phone.
Right.
Still a great phone, but it's their budget model. You have the XS, and then you have the XX Max. So what differences do you see? Screen size. I could definitely see in a Pro it having a larger screen size for playability. Like you said, internal memory. So I could see potentially, I don't think they would only release X amount of internal. I think we'll see a significant boost of storage, but I don't think we'll see like a Pro sell with like 32 gigabytes and then 128.
Yeah.
I could see the Lite having like 32 and then like a Pro having 64, to like justify the cost differences and incentives and things like that. When it comes to actual, like a newer Switch model, my biggest things that I would want would be better battery life. I think that's part of the reason why I don't play in handheld as much. I do have like one of those little accessories for tabletop mode. So where when you set it on the bottom where it plugs in, you can charge it along the side, and it like kind of has like a kickstand built into it. So I have one of those to make it easier to charge if I'm like laying down in bed playing my Switch or something like that. But so screen size, battery life, and I would actually love like UI customization. Like if it doesn't even have to be like, I know you said like sorting your games and stuff like that, but like I would love to be able to change my wallpaper.
Yeah.
If my wallpaper was Bayonetta every single time like I opened my Switch up, I would
Mhm.
die a happy woman, you know, like or like they give you all the little preset icons and stuff. I love how they keep adding and upgrading those. I think it would be cool to be able to like make my own icon, like my own picture, but that's just like profile driven between social media. Like I want to be able to do that. Realistically, Nintendo likes to keep things clean, and
Right.
if they open it up for photo uploads, then you know that's the potential for profanity, you know, different things like that. So I don't know how realistic that is, but a customized menu option would be pretty cool. I love the Joy-Cons, so I know some people are like, you know, if they do a mini, then they probably won't have like detachable Joy-Cons, you know, or something like that. And I don't think I could give up my Joy-Cons. I really love my Joy-Cons.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. I think I do think with the mini, they're probably going to be permanently attached.
Yeah, it
But
makes sense.
yeah, but with the Pro, I do think if they do come out with a Pro, I think it would be crazy for them to release a Pro and it not work with all the existing Joy Cons and controllers. That would be insanity. So I don't think Nintendo would do that. I feel like they're smarter than that. So I do think that even if I think the size of the Pro will be the same as the current Switch. It will just the screen size might be a little bit bigger. Maybe the bezel around the screen will be a little bit thinner. But I would bet money that it's going to work with all the existing Joy-Con. Wouldn't you agree with
Well,
that?
I do, but in different ways.
Hmm.
So I do think they'll be compatible with it, but I think more or less like I could see there being an adapter that fits into like the sides and then like the Joy-Con fitting into the adapter. So like I could see the overall thing potentially being a little bit bigger and then adapters that slide onto each side of the Switch and then a Joy-Con that would slide into like that adapter to like
Hmm.
make it fit. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. In a way, I almost feel like they would have to change something about it
Right.
because I mean, why would you still like what would the incentive be otherwise? And Nintendo does a really good job when it comes to upgrading their devices. I mean, if we're thinking handheld, but see they could like I said, they could change the whole docking system altogether. Like instead of it like sitting down into a dock, it could always like I don't know, almost lay into
Hmm.
one. There's a lot of possibilities.
That's true. That is very true. And you're right. They do need to come up with some way if they do release a Pro of making it worth the extra money if we assume it's going to be a little more expensive, or differentiating it from the current model of the Switch and the Switch Mini. There has to be an incentive for people to want to buy the Pro. And as you stated earlier, they can't just make it a lot more powerful, because then if we've got this issue where you've got some games that are going to work on the Pro that won't work on the other models. We're going to have a problem. It's going to confuse the market. They did that previously with the Nintendo 3DS and the new Nintendo 3DS. The new Nintendo 3DS was more powerful, and there were some games that would only run on the new Nintendo 3DS that would not run on the original model, and that led to a lot of confusion. So I don't think that they're going to be able to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. But it's also one of those things, what can they do? What
Yep.
will they do, you know? So that's what makes it so exciting to like be so involved in one system because it's one of those things Nintendo can take it so many different directions. Like it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you, you know, like energized and wanting more and like you like in depthly trying to figure out all these different options.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of exciting, let's go ahead and launch into the next talking point. This is going to be the last talking point on the actual console, and then we're going to get into talking about the games a little bit. So the next talking point is, how awesome is it that Nintendo is really one of the only console manufacturers out of the big three that really tries new ideas and tries to innovate and think outside of the box instead of releasing another box that's almost exactly the same except more powerful. So, Tara, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so to me, this whole topic alone, I could talk about for hours with you
Mm-hmm.
to open it up with Nintendo in general. So like it will be hard for me to just talk about this for the Switch, but I mean, it ties back to how we started out this conversation. Like Nintendo did something with the Switch that I do not think Microsoft or Sony would have ever have tried,
Nope.
and Nintendo's been that ballsy gaming company
Yes.
who has always made risks. Sometimes those bounced like right off.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those risks weren't worth it, but a lot of the times like it's paid off for them. And I talk to people about the Switch all the time. Like personally, I'm very active on the online community with it. But like when I talk to people in person, they're like, how do you have 200 games for the Switch? They don't even have that many. And
Yeah.
I'm like, friends with JP that has Lord knows how many different games and
Mm-hmm.
cover variations, or so when I talk to him about his collection, like he only does like English titles,
Mm-hmm.
but like they have over like twice my collection, if not approaching 3 times my collection. And I think the complete list of games at this point's over 1,500 games with
That's
indie
insane.
titles and everything
Mm-hmm.
included. Yeah, like because it was definitely over 1,000. I don't know, before the year started for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And we've only had so many. But that's the wonderful thing about it. So like everybody's wanting to port their games and have their games on the Switch because that's where the money's at right now, like that's where the market and the industry is at.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Nintendo went balls to the wall with this, and I don't want to say it was a brand new idea when it came to the Wii U. It didn't, and then they perfected it.
Mm-hmm.
So like they sent something out, it didn't do that well, and they perfected it, and they've really come back around, and it blows my mind, like the new and unique ideas that Nintendo's always doing. Like I was reading an article the other day about how Nintendo's always changed gaming. Like Mario 64 was one of the first 3D like playable games that you
Yes.
could do. And Nintendo's always been the one to do those things. And I've always been a Nintendo fan, and there's a reason. Like they've been the ones who have constantly impressed me. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. So my older sister, she started playing video games I maybe like at 24 months with my parents, because like they had her young and stuff. And literally coming out the womb, man, like as soon as I could, like I was playing the Super Nintendo. So it's funny, like I played the Super Nintendo first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remember when we were, I don't know, I was probably 8 or 9, we got a NES at my neighbor's garage sale with some games for a really good price. And I mean, we've just I've always had a Nintendo console.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, like this is really one of the things, one of my favorite things about Nintendo, and I have just tremendous amount of respect for Nintendo because they are pretty much, yeah, I mean, Microsoft and Sony, they have some innovation here and there every now and then, but more or less every year they just release a more powerful version of the previous console. There's really nothing new there, and it's not super exciting for me personally, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Whereas with Nintendo, they're constantly trying new things, trying to innovate, come up with new ideas. And so for me, the level of excitement for when a new Nintendo console is announced and being released is just through the roof. Whereas the level of excitement for, like, for example, now we got the PS5 coming and the Xbox 2 or whatever they're going to call it. I don't really, I'm just not really excited for them at all. But when the Switch was announced, when I saw the trailer for the Switch, the very first trailer that they released, I was literally just tearing up and just so freaking blown away and amazed by what I was seeing. And I knew as soon as I saw that trailer, I knew that this is a new Nintendo. They've got something special on their hands with the Switch. I knew right then and there that this thing is going to be amazing. It's going to be a success. And just to kind of go back to what I said about I have a lot of respect for Nintendo, I have a lot of respect that they try these new things and constantly try to innovate. It's because it's just more enjoyable that way to be able to play games in different ways. You know, like with the Wii, whenever they did motion controls, yeah, there was a lot of gimmicky stuff, a lot of games that were very gimmicky and weren't very fun. But there were a lot of games on the Wii that the motion controls were an absolute blast. Like one of my favorite games on the Wii that used motion controls was Red Steel 2. Have you ever played Red Steel 2?
I haven't.
So Red Steel 2 uses the Wii Motion Plus so that it detects your movement completely, no matter how you're moving the Wiimote. And it's like a Western samurai ninja style game. And the gameplay is absolutely incredible because you go between using a gun and using a sword. And the sword fighting in that game using the Wii Motion Plus is amazing. You do parries, you block with the controller, holding it like a sword, you swing it like a sword, you activate all these special moves. And then, you know, if you need to shoot somebody instead of using your sword, you can easily use the Wiimote to whip out a gun and shoot somebody. And it's just the way that they did the motion controls in that game were perfect. And then for example, games like Mario Party, the motion controls in those were a lot of fun. And not to get off on a tangent about the Wii, I guess what I'm really trying to say is Nintendo's always pushing the boundaries. They're always coming up with new ideas. They're not afraid to try new things, even if those new ideas fail, like the Wii U. You know, I don't really want to call it a failure. I don't think it was a failure. And I love the Wii U. A lot of people to say it's a bad console. I completely disagree. It is not a bad console. I think it's a fantastic console, but they didn't market it right. They kind of messed up on their marketing of the Wii U. It was very confusing. But boy, have they learned their lesson with the Switch because
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen Nintendo. I've never seen them at this level of just amazing marketing before. The way that they're marketing the Switch and the games, it's absolutely brilliant. They have turned into a marketing beast, and it's clearly paying off. And their innovation pays off sometimes. Actually, I would say most of the time it pays off. I mean, the Wii was a massive success. Their innovation paid off there. Their new ideas paid off there. The 3DS and the DS line of system, massive success. The Wii U was a little bit of a flop, but when you look at the history of Nintendo and their innovations, most of the time they're very, very, very successful. Very successful. So it's just a lot more enjoyable to have a console that tries new ideas instead of a console that just does the same thing over and over every generation.
No, yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And I don't want to like push us in to the next topic, but like everything you're talking about right now like really builds up for the next topic to transition into their games. Like are we ready to make that little flip?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So, like, as you talk about these different things and how, so Nintendo to me has always had a certain amount of respect because they can admit to their flaws, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the Wii U, yes, wasn't as good of a system as it could have been,
Right.
and we see that here in the Switch. So this next part, when we talk about the games, you know, and what they mean to us, the first discussion topic is their first party games. So I absolutely love and adore the fact that we have games ported over from the Wii U to the Switch that, you know, a lot of people didn't partake in the Wii U,
Yes.
but they still didn't let games for the Wii U fail because it didn't do good on the Wii U. So, like, of course, shocker, I'm going to mention Bayonetta and the fact that we have that as a playable physical game on the Switch, you know? So, like, Bayonetta 2, we've got it. Bayonetta 1, not everybody has a physical 4. But it absolutely just blows my mind how different games they put it, like Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Donkey Kong, they did really good with, bringing that, and it's really like that made me respect Nintendo even more. So like, yeah, okay, so this didn't do well here, but it still has potential to do well and sell well over here. Like it wasn't a bad game. It just people weren't biting. So, and when it comes to their marketing, like you mentioned, like that's why I also really like the Labos, because it shows just how fun and interactive you can be with the Switch. Like they Nintendo physically gives you the tools
Mm-hmm.
to build and create these really cool, like a brand new gaming experience, essentially. Like, I mean, who else is going to give you like a little cardboard, piano to be able to play a game,
Yeah.
or, all these different things. So favorite first parties for me, 100%, always going to be Bayonetta, always going to be the Mario games, but like
Mm-hmm.
specifically, I thought they did really well with Super Mario Odyssey. That would have been the first game I actually beat for my Switch. Splatoon 2 has been a lot of fun to play. Now, I'm not like, I play that for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I have gamed with some people that play it like it's their job,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, even a game like that can be so competitive and interactive and fun. We already touched base on Breath of the Wild and how
Mm-hmm.
amazing that is. Mario Kart is one, like, I think that's the game I have the most hours invested in, just because that's like a go-to party game for me. My first part, I don't want to say it was a disappointment, but it makes me hopeful for a better version down the road, was Super Mario Party.
Yeah.
So I understand full-heartedly after the last couple regular Mario Party games that they needed to take the gaming franchise of Super Mario, or of Mario Party, into a different direction.
Right.
So hence we started with the Super Mario Party. Now, I played Mario Party 3, what, 2 weekends ago now? And I completely forgot the complexity of a Mario Party game after playing Super Mario Party so much.
Yes.
Um, I think on my profile, I probably only have like 35 hours logged on it, but my mom's Switch, we have over 60. Like,
Wow.
yeah, like my family is a huge Mario Party. So think about it. I'm one of 4 siblings. How many players do you have? 4. How much does it suck to play with a computer?
It does. Yeah.
Way too much. So like naturally, like growing up, Mario Kart and Mario Party were ones we played a lot. And I'm telling you, like playing Mario Party again, like in its like prime, before like this modern day Mario Party that's like so much more simplistic, like you used to be able to really get down in that game.
Yes.
So I think, at least like I'm hopeful that Nintendo started a new like Mario Party. So like I hope we'll have like Super Mario Party 2 and
Mm-hmm.
3, and stuff like that down the road, because I do think everybody needed a new taste in their mouth after the last couple of games that didn't do so well. Um, but I'm ready for a really good complex Mario Party game like on modern day console.
Yes, I am too. I 100% agree with you on that. And just since we're talking about Super Mario Party, um, I unfortunately I have not played it as much as I would like to. I've probably put in, I don't know, I would say 5 to 10 hours into it. The only complaint that I have about Super Mario Party, and it's a very minor complaint, I wish there were more boards to play on. I mean, only having 4 boards to choose from, I kind of feel like they dropped the ball there. I feel like there should have been at least 6 at the least, but it's it's something
Well,
that. Go ahead.
so it wasn't just the boards, but it was the simplicity of the boards, and that they weren't very complicated or very
Mhm.
challenging. So in your 5 to 10 hours of gameplay, I I would say you have seen most of what there is to be seen on that game,
Hmm.
besides a couple different mini plays and miniature gameplays, and stuff like that.
Right, right.
Just because, like, there's just not as much, like, so even if they gave us two more boards, they're still simple boards, and that's not knocking the game, but it's not as complex as I'm used to a Mario Party being.
Yep.
And uh, that could just be because, that could be another one of those, well, let's test this and see how it does. And if it goes well, then we can take customer complaints, customer feedback, and stuff like that, and shape like a Super Mario Party 2 to like
Hmm.
really have, what the consumer's wanting in it. But like, it wasn't a flop. I don't think they did bad with the game, but it definitely isn't as good as the first couple, like,
Yeah.
just to put it blankly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually really love the Mario Party games on the GameCube. Those are some of my favorites. And so, like you, I hope that future Super Mario Party titles are a little bit more complex, and I think they will. I think they're going to move into that direction. But we could spend all day talking about all these games in great detail. But obviously, for time's sake, we can't do that, unfortunately, as much as I would love to. But I do want to scroll through this Nintendo published first party list and just kind of look. Okay, so think about this, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, especially people that don't own a Switch. The Nintendo Switch has only been on the market for 2 years, 3 months, or what? 2 years, almost 2.5 years now, getting close to that point. And just look at how many Nintendo published games that we have on this list, and not just quantity, but quality too. I mean, there are some absolutely incredible games on this list. Some of them I consider to be masterpieces, like Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Super Mario Odyssey. I consider those games to be masterpieces, in my opinion. But you just look at this list of games. I mean, it's incredible. Not only, like I said, not only is it quantity, but we have quality here too. And not only that, but we have a huge variety of different types of games, something for everybody. And it's just incredible. I mean, Breath of the Wild, 1-2 switch, 1-2 switch. Um, not much to say there.
I actually don't have that one.
It's if you get it, I do recommend playing it with some friends at least once because you will get a laugh out of it. It's pretty entertaining, but it's not something that you're probably going to want to play more than once or twice.
Yeah, that's
But
the thing.
Arms was a lot of fun, and
When it comes to 1-2 Switch, I've never picked it up because I don't see myself playing it more than a couple times, and the price has never dropped
right,
enough to me to sneak it in
yeah,
there.
yeah. That game should really be like $20, honestly, or they should have just packed it in with the Switch for free. But it's fine. It's definitely not worth paying 50 or $60 for. But I mean, just such an amazing lineup of games here. In just the first 2 years of the console, we have all these amazing Nintendo published games. And like you, I'm really happy that they ported a lot of Wii U games over, and I hope they continue to do so with some of the remaining Wii U games because of the fact that the Wii U only sold about 13 million consoles, and the Switch has already just blown away 13 million. I mean, we're way past 13 million at this point. So that means that we have a ton of people that own a Switch that have never played these Wii U games. And I know there's a lot of people out there that get angry when Nintendo ports over a Wii U game. And I personally, I just don't get that. I don't understand why people get angry about that because I want all the games on Switch.
Same.
You know
Give
what I
me
mean?
them all.
Hmm. So, but there's people out there that are Nintendo haters and they look for any reason to bash on Nintendo. And if they want to do that, more power to them. Just such an amazing list of games. Is there anything before we move on to the next topic? Is there anything that you want to add about any of these games?
Nope. Nope. I've said it all.
Yeah, like I said, we could end up talking about these games probably all day long. Just
Easily, like just
mhm.
like I want to say something on Yoshi's Crafted World and how amazing that game is, but then I'll be talking for another 30 minutes, like on a tangent. So,
Well, maybe we'll save this for a future discussion video where we just talk about some of the games in more details.
hey, that sounds like a great idea if I've ever heard one.
Absolutely, but let's go to some third party games. So, would you like to start us off on your thoughts on the Nintendo third party games for the Switch?
Yeah. So another one of their strengths. I do not think Nintendo. So I follow the physical publishing of games pretty closely.
Hmm.
So with that being said, like as different publishers and developers have like these little hiccups where it delays a game to be able to be released. Um, I overall, and granted, this is not my knowledge, I'm just observant. I don't think Nintendo makes it terribly hard for third party people to actually release games.
Right.
And I think that's a pretty big playable stretch when it comes to the success of the console so far, and why 2 years in it has only gained momentum, because it really opens the door for uh, anything and everything just about. Like when I look at my shelf, yeah, I've got a lot of Nintendo titles, but I have way more third-party titles
Hmm.
than I do any kind of like Nintendo IP like related stuff directly. Um, and honestly, I could go through and name, I mean, literally, what, just about anything that's not. So Crash was obviously one of my favorites.
Hmm.
Um, the fact that we'll have Spyro pretty soon on the Switch. I already texted my brother and asked him if he wanted my PS4 copy of Spyro, because like once I have it on my Switch, like I will not play it on anything else. Um, but again, just another huge strength that Nintendo's done on their part.
Yep, I 100% agree. They've definitely nailed it on the third party front this year. And just scrolling through the list of games in my collection, I just want to give a shout out to a few really awesome third party gets for Nintendo here. So let's see, scrolling through now. Obviously, as you said, Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. We just got Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled.
Woo
Freaking,
woo.
yep, exactly. Freaking Dark Souls Remastered, which is awesome. Darksiders War Mastered Edition. You know, we've got Doom from Bethesda. Bethesda's been really great for the Switch this year.
Mhm.
You know, with
Mhm.
Skyrim, Doom, and Wolfenstein 2. Capcom's another huge supporter. We've got Dragon's Dogma. Pretty much every Resident Evil game is coming out on the Switch.
And
Uh,
how crazy is that?
oh, it's amazing, especially Resident Evil 4, because that's one of my favorite games of all time. So I'm very happy about that. I just wish they released a physical version. I feel like they kind of dropped the ball there, but you know.
Hopefully we see more in the fiscal terms
Hmm. Yep.
of that, but I guess that's another topic discussion.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then of course, you know, we've even got support from Rockstar with L.A. Noir that was released in the very first year, around the same time that Skyrim was. So just you know, the Mega Man collections, Mega Man 11, Monster Hunter. I don't know, Monster Hunter. I would consider it's not published by Nintendo, but I would almost consider that like a first or second party game. But you know, Okami HD, just so much good stuff from third party companies. And
Square Enix,
yes,
all the
absolutely.
Final Fantasy stuff coming
Yep.
over, like
Yep.
that's a that's kind of like a life goal that I've had. So many of the Final Fantasy games I never personally played. So like, but that's also, that comes into like how I've always like played Nintendo in a way.
Hmm.
Like I would, but I've watched gameplay of that for so long because my older sister is huge into Final Fantasy, and she's played practically every Final Fantasy game there is, and I've
Wow.
watched her play a lot of them. Like, she's just always loved them. Like, she still has Final Fantasy 3 and the manual for the Super Nintendo. I really wish she still had the box. I don't know whatever happened to the box, but like always held that dear. Um, And Square Enix, I think they've done pretty well with
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff they've given us onto the Switch.
Oh yeah, they have absolutely. And just like you, I don't have a lot of experience with Final Fantasy games. There have only been, I believe, two Final Fantasy games that I've played and beat, and that's Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo and Final Fantasy 7 for the PlayStation. Other than that, I've dabbled in a few of the other Final Fantasy games, like Final Fantasy 15. I played a little bit last year, but I don't have a lot of experience with that series. And it's really cool that most of those games are coming to the Switch because, as we talked about earlier, Switch is perfect for people that are busy. So, playing huge RPG games like that take many, many hours to play through, the
Hmm.
Switch is the perfect console to play those types of games.
Yeah, well, and I think like it was another untapped market, you know?
Hmm.
So a lot of people, collectors, gamers, us, like when it comes to that, it's when it comes to the Final Fantasy games, it's gonna sell. It has sold, and it will continue to sell. And the fact that they're doing like these remakes after giving us all these games and stuff like that, like it's just crazy. Like the amount of and I've bought every single physical Final Fantasy game that's came out so far on the Switch, and I'll continue to buy them. Like it's just brilliant on
Hmm.
their end to make it an option.
I agree. I agree, and I really hope they bring Final Fantasy 15 over, not the what was that other version of Final Fantasy 15 that came out on the Switch? You know what I'm talking about? Um,
The XX2?
no, it was like the mobile version of Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I
Yeah, I can't remember what
again,
they called
not
it,
my
but it's
area
like,
of expertise.
yeah, it's like the watered down.
Yeah.
Right, right, mine either. But it's really great. It's really great that the Switch is getting such amazing support from all these third-party gaming companies, and I hope that even more come on board as the Switch continues to gain more and more customers. So, with all that being said, let's launch into talking about indie games because I think you're with me on this. Indie games are freaking amazing.
The person who really started bringing life to me for indie games is Erica. She does a lot of JP's designs on Twitter. She did my logo. She's amazing. She's the one that really kind of brought life to indie games. So like early in forming the Switch Core, we were pressing as advocates for the Switch. So for physical games, for indie games, Kickstarters, like we were highly pushing
Hmm.
like growth for the actual Switch. It's kind of formed like a lot more into a community, but like Kickstarters when it comes to indies and things like that. Like indie games, just they're cheap most of the time. They offer a really fun gaming experience. And one of my favorite things to do is to take like my gold coins and games that are just super cheap on sale
Hmm.
and buying them just to see like what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to do, and there are just another beautiful thing about the Switch is there are just so many indie games, and a vast majority of them are incredible. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite games on the Switch are indie games, and I just want to give a shout out to a few of those real quick. So let's see. I'm scrolling through my list here. Dead Cells, that's one of my favorite indie games on the Switch.
That was my first mentioned game I
Mhm.
had written down too.
That game is incredible. I could talk about that game for a long time. Just such a fantastic game. Another one, and let's see. So I don't know if you've ever played this game or not, Tara, but Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. Have you ever played that?
I'm I want to say I'm currently a frog
Nice.
in the game.
I
Maybe. I'm over halfway through the gameplay.
I love that game. That game really surprised me with how amazing it is.
I had my mom start that game. And when it comes to like a side scroll platformer type
Hmm.
game, I think it's one of the best
Hmm.
like newer games like that that have been released. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. The game design in that game is just brilliant.
One title for me that I've really enjoyed is Yuko's Island Express. I'm a huge pinball game fan and I'm
Hmm.
a huge side scroll platformer game. So when you put the two of those together, like
Hmm.
that, listen, that was all I played for a solid week straight
You know, I
for a little bit.
I haven't actually played that game yet. I have it, and I've always heard how amazing it is, but it's just one
You
of those things.
you know what? I want to say I was watching your YouTube
Hmm.
video of you going through all your games
Hmm.
and you commented on that, and I wanted to say something to you, but like there are so many like just different like games that you were talking about.
Hmm.
It's so much fun. Like if you appreciate those types of games, like the controls, it's just a fun and easy game. Like it's challenging, but it's not like impossible, so
Right.
it's one of those games you can like, it's a chill gameplay.
Yeah, I like that sometimes, having a game that's just kind of chilled out. Not only does the Switch have many new amazing indie games like some of the ones that we've both mentioned, but it also has a lot of older indie games that are incredible, like Super Meat Boy, The Binding of Isaac, freaking Stardew Valley. Who doesn't love Stardew Valley? I mean, that's another one of my favorite indie games of all time. How do you feel about that game?
I've never played it.
Oh no, really?
I don't have it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So let me tell you two things. There is a physical version of that game, but you have to get it imported from Japan, which is really weird.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but as much as you love Animal Crossing, I'm gonna go on record saying this, all right? And a lot of people are probably gonna get mad at me for saying this, but in my opinion, I think Stardew Valley is better than Animal Crossing. It's better in different ways, right? It's a similar game to Animal Crossing, but it's deeper than Animal Crossing. And maybe I shouldn't say that I think it's a better game than Animal Crossing, because they are, even though they're similar, they're still both vastly different from one another. But I cannot recommend Stardew Valley to you enough. As somebody that loves Animal Crossing, I think you will really, really enjoy that game. But fair warning, if you start playing that game, it's like crack. You're just not going to want to stop. Except that crack is bad, and don't do drugs, people. But
no,
yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, I've heard really good feedback
Hmm.
on that game with the gameplay, with the overall like just beauty of the game. Like I haven't heard anybody like play it and then have a bad recommendation or say like much bad about the game. It's just one of those I have yet to pick up. And it's probably because I typically buy physical,
Right.
and like you said, it's one of those that have to be imported
Hmm.
and all that, and I just haven't gotten to it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very weird that that game does not have a physical version in Europe or the United States. It's really bizarre. Like that game to me is just as popular as that game is. It's just like it's perfect for a physical edition. I'm not sure how Japan got one and the United States didn't, but I will say this: the Japanese physical edition is really cool. It comes with some cool extras. It's a very nice package. So if they never release a physical edition in the States or in Europe, I recommend maybe picking that one up. It's a nice collection piece. And before we jump into the next topic, I wanted to see if you have any more indie games you want to shout out or anything you want to add about indie games.
I mean, overall, like when just in general, when it comes to talking about like the Switch, my biggest thing is the community, like
Hmm.
being a part of, like a whole. And I love being interactive and engaging. And when it comes to indie games, we're not talking about people who have, lots of money to like release stuff or to really put into like a physical game all the time. So like indie games are the ones I will buy digital copies of.
Hmm.
Like for Forgotten Anne, I bought, which now we know we will be getting like a physical release of, but and I will buy a physical release of that game. So like yeah, I paid for the same game twice, but ultimately like what came from that. So I just want people to be able to understand the importance of like putting money into indie games,
Yeah.
because that's that's the market on the
Hmm.
Switch. Like of
Hmm.
course Nintendo's going to have their long list of titles they've released, but when we talk about over 1,500 games,
Hmm.
Nintendo's not putting out 1,500 games,
Right.
like, so I think a lot is just like people understanding, like, yeah, not everything is always going to have a physical, but what are the upsides? So, like, it is important to support digital content, and the fact that it's important to uh, support indie people. So, like, I know there's, what is that, like, hockey game that a lot of people are playing, Super Bloody Hockey, or
I'm not familiar with that one.
me and Tony were talking about it the other day, and some people on Twitter have played it. It's an indie game, and
Hmm.
it's just like silly animation, but there's blood, and I mean, it's hockey, so
Yeah.
like it's aggressive, but like, things like that, like indie games like really tie us together, I think, in a
Hmm.
way that people don't realize. And always support, like, who is it that says always spay and neuter your dogs and
Yeah.
cats?
Right.
Like, that's me with indie games. Always buy and support your indie games.
I 100%. I 100% agree with you. And one thing that really drives me crazy, and it's sort of a pet peeve of mine, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail about it, but it really drives me crazy when I see people comment on YouTube videos or posts or whatever and say that indie games are not real games. That absolutely drives me insane. Yeah, that's
Abort,
like,
abort.
yeah, that we could probably get into like a heated, not like at each other, but a heated at those kind of people conversation about that. But we'll leave that for another video. But yeah, that really drives me crazy because I mean, a game is a game. I mean, just because it's a smaller, you know what? Never mind. I'm not even going to get into. Um,
Listen, I know.
yeah, but yeah, that does drive me crazy. All right, well, let's get into the last talking point before we close out the video, and that is the limited physical games and collector's editions for the Switch. Because it's another beautiful thing about the Switch is we have not only a ton of amazing collector's editions that get released, but also we have all these companies popping up like Super Rare Games, Limited Run Games, East Asia Soft. There are just tons of them releasing, giving, they're doing a great thing. They're allowing some of these indie games that we just talked about to have a physical release. And I think it's a great thing that they're doing because it really allows us to preserve these games even more. Because when a game is all digital, it's probably going to disappear eventually from the digital marketplace that it's on. It's just, it's one of the downsides to digital. So these companies that are releasing these limited physical editions of these indie games that were previously only digital, I think is fantastic. So what do you have to say about that?
So, well, and it's a really good, like, you listed these topics very well, because when we talk about indie games, like, this is the perfect transition to make. Like,
Hmm.
yes, as important digital content is, that physical having and seeing a game is huge. I know some collectors won't let people borrow their games. I am the type of person, though, that if something sparks joy and happiness into me, that's something I want to share with somebody. So I have probably 5 of my games right now that
Hmm.
are out being borrowed by friends, um, which they all know that it
Hmm.
comes with a warning
Right.
that the game comes back
Yeah.
because Tara knows where you live.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
when I look at my shelf and I look at what is currently on there, I I don't want to say half, but probably close to a quarter at least is limited run titles.
Hmm.
So, like, super rare games, I'm 100% on.
Hmm.
Strictly limited games so far. Um, of course, limited run games. Like,
Yep.
I mean, shit, they have what, almost 40 Switch games at this point when
Yeah, it's
you
insane.
count and they're non-numbered games.
Hmm.
And uh like, the fact that I have Outlast on an actual cartridge that
Yes.
I can let somebody borrow,
Hmm.
it it's crazy. Like, I love seeing them. I love holding them. I love having them. But like, I think part of that comes back even from having like my Game Boy Color back in the day. Like, I had my Game Boy, I had my carrying case, I had all my different cartridges in there, and that's never something I personally want to like get away from. So the fact that we have these limited published games, just they're awesome because it gives me like fulfillment when it comes to my actual collection. And a lot of them are really like, I interact with, you know, a lot of people on Twitter,
Hmm.
and the fact that they do so much back to the community is really, really cool.
Yep, I agree. And another great thing about these limited physical games and also the collector's editions um, is that a lot of them come with extra goodies too, like a small instruction manual or some cards or a little art book, you know. And to me, that's very special to me and nostalgic because it's not like it was back in the day when we'd get a game and it would always have a manual, a really nice full color manual, and sometimes some extra goodies in it. Nowadays, most games don't come with a manual or anything at all. Some games really punch you in the gut and they throw like an advertisement, in the box, and that's all you get. So it's really nice.
Capcom,
Yeah,
he's talking to
exactly.
you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's really nice to have these other companies that are adding all these goodies to the box, and another company that's fantastic about it. And they're not a limited company, but Nicalis or Nicalis, however you want to
Yeah.
pronounce it. Yeah, they are just killing it with their releases. Not only are they priced great, but they throw a ton of goodies, as many goodies as they can pack into that little Switch box. I mean, it's really awesome. So I buy all of their games, and I want to say that it's only the first printing of their games that have the goodies in them. I think once they get past the first printing, I think they stop adding the goodies, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, so anything
I
else?
think you're right though. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Um, I mean, just I feel like we can't talk about limited releases of games without at least kind of giving a special shout out.
Hmm.
And people can say whatever I want because I post about them a lot, but they really like kind of kick started my Switch collecting in a way that not many other publishers did. It is limited run games. Like, I
Hmm.
feel they were the backbone for the jump start for releasing all these because they were already doing it, you know,
Right.
and for the Vita and the PS4. But I really think like they started something when it came to the actual for this to be a topic of discussion, you know?
Hmm.
So I will not say anything bad about any publishing company.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to say who is or isn't my favorite because I truly appreciate what all of them do. So
Yep.
I will never badmouth any of them. But I definitely think limited run games is the reason why we have so many different publishers doing limited quantity of games,
Hmm.
just because they set gear for I mean, you know, Wired Productions had the Tiny Troopers pop up. We have Super Rare Games, Strictly Limited, Special Reserves, East Asia Soft, all of them doing these limited titles,
Hmm.
and their numbers are numbered much lower
We
than, like we said, Limited's got close to 40 out now.
right.
Um, and I just truly appreciate like what they've done for the community in terms of giving us physical games.
I do too. They've definitely started something great for collectors and fans of the Switch in general. And it honestly, it's not a bad thing that there are all these other companies popping up and doing the same thing. And the reason that it's not a bad thing is because not only is competition healthy, but also there are so many quality indie games on the Nintendo Switch that all of these companies they have plenty to choose from. So it's not like they're ever going to run out. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure they probably compete with each other on, okay, we want to get this game before they get this game and that sort of thing. But for the most part, they all have just a huge pool of games to choose from. So it's really a nice, healthy competition. And I even see them shout each other out every now and then, and even work with each other. Like I think Limited Run Games worked with I want to say Special Reserve Games on the Messenger. Am I right about that?
They did for the Messenger. You
Yeah.
could have bought it through either portal. Ocean Horns
Mm,
is another
mhm.
title that they did a joint thing with. Yeah, they've done a couple. Even like Fan Gamers. Didn't Fan Gamers do Hollow Knight with somebody else?
Yeah, I believe they did.
I don't remember who or what off the top of my head, but like like when we talk about the community and everything, like that's another really cool thing. Like we
Hmm.
have these, like these driving forces that really are just trying to drive the same overall passion, and that's for video games.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is truly an amazing thing. And so, Tara, we have been talking for almost 2 hours now. That's wow. It just went by really quick, didn't
Yeah, listen, Matt, I asked you if
it?
I had a time limit before we started for a reason.
Hey, that's okay. It's been a great conversation. It's been a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get into the conclusion to the video. And we're gonna each talk about just some final thoughts on the Switch itself. So Tara, what are your final thoughts on the Switch?
My final thoughts for the Switch is just I'm so happy to actually have this console that's so unique, that's so innovating, to constantly like play and be able to talk with people like you and in the community. Um, but overall, like being a collector and having all this stuff like to play with wouldn't be nearly as fun without the community that I'm a part of. So like to me, I can talk till I'm blue in the face about games,
Hmm.
but if I don't have anybody to talk about or share my experiences with, like it's just another day, you know? So like at the end of the day, I am truly thankful and I am truly fortunate to be able to have the community of the Nintendo Switch presence. Like that's just like my final piece. I feel like a lot of the times I get lost in talking about like the games or different experiences that I have that I forget to talk about the most important thing,
Hmm.
and that's being involved like right here on this channel with you on Twitter, like with the Switch Core community, like just gaming in general, like because gaming for me started at a point where like I don't like I read for a long time. And
Hmm.
then instead of reading to experience new tales, like I started playing games to experience new tales. And at the end of the day, having somebody in a community to be a part of like is what is the cherry on top of the sundae for me.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I've, I'm new to the Twitter community. I just started Twitter with the YouTube channel. Prior to that, I was more kind of ingrained in the Instagram community. And no matter which way you go, whether it's the YouTube community, the Twitter community, the Instagram community, whatever social media platform, I've already just really discovered that it's just such an awesome community. I've already met so many amazing people, so many people that have inspired me, so many people that I've got to talk to and have conversations with and talk about games. And it's just been such an amazing thing. And in all honesty, this is the my favorite thing about doing YouTube is being able to meet and interact with so many amazing people and make new friends and have really awesome conversations and really just kind of grow the community together. It's just that I get more joy out of that than anything. Sure, making videos is a lot of fun. I have a blast with it, but the videos would be nothing without a community of awesome people to interact with and talk to. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm really just having a blast so far. And as far as the Switch goes, the console, I'm more thankful for the Switch than I am any other console that has ever been released because primarily not only because of my love for Nintendo and how amazing the Switch is, but also because at this point in my life, I'm I'm so busy. I work full time. I'm working on a degree right now. I'm doing YouTube. I'm so busy all the time that the only real time that I get to play video games most of the time is on the Nintendo Switch. So, and it's because of everything that we've talked about today in this discussion. And I'm just if I could thank Nintendo, like personally, like talk to Doug Bowser or Reggie, the man, the myth, the legend, or Miyamoto, the even bigger man, myth, and legend, I would just I would honestly give them a huge hug and be like, man, you changed my life,
Yeah.
because it's just such an awesome thing. And but I love video games in general. It's just I don't believe this is another topic that I may do a discussion video on at some point, but I don't believe in console wars. To me, that's just silly. Um, Playing video games is all about having fun, and if you like one console over the other, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're having fun at the end of the day, as long as you're enjoying yourself, that's really all that matters. There's no sense in turning it into a competition or a console war, as other people like to put it. But anyways, that's a topic I could get on a huge tangent about. The Switch is amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite consoles of all time, and uh, it has been an absolute blast talking to you about this and going through this topic. I want to really just thank you for joining this video with me. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you had fun as well. Do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media, and also could you explain Switch Core a little bit as well?
Okay, yeah. So I would love to do that. But real quick, thank you for the opportunity to even
Mm-hmm.
be on here. Stuff like this is fun. Uh, I have obviously a passion for it, and as long as I can share my experiences with other people, anyways, absolutely love the opportunity to have this. Obviously, we just talked for over 2 hours and it felt like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it
But
really did.
so I have a friend that I worked with at Verizon who has been involved in esports for like 15 years. And he knew that I had always gamed. He noticed like I was collecting for the Switch really before I would have said that I was a collector for it. Like you just start acquiring things and then before you know it, like you've got 50 games and you know the rest is history. But he was like, Tara, if you don't start using your Twitter. So I've had Twitter for a long time and I
Mm-hmm.
never used it. He's like, if you don't start using your Twitter for gaming, I might like strangle you. Like, so I would say probably around, I don't know, sometime last summer, June, July, or August, or whatever it was, like I started actively like looking at Switch stuff. And before I knew it, like I just kind of was, posting about the Switch, commenting on other people's, and there's this gentleman Josh I'm sorry, there's this gentleman named Josh French who really was the key factor in forming like the Switch core.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially he did a very similar principle with like the PS Vita and kind of being like an advocate for it. So he was wanting to start an advocate group for the Switch. So originally, as we started, like it was just like 20 people in a DM together that just like talked about games, talked about collecting,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And we wanted to create like a hashtag so where we could pretty much like grow a community and grow a hashtag for the Switch, which is long overdue. The Nintendo kind of needed another like umph in a community of gaming again.
Right.
And like he was a huge driving force behind it and like we just all kind of like went with it. So like originally how I started talking to him or anybody, I don't even know. But fast forward to a couple months down the road, well, multiple months down the road now at this point, like we have pretty much become a presence that takes pride in gaming in the community. So I know we've talked about like doing like actual game, like hosting a game night.
Mhm.
The biggest thing is like, well, how do you make it work for everybody across the world to play Mario Kart at a certain time and place?
Right.
You know, so it takes a lot of like stuff to be able to organize that, but I will do it before the summer's over. um but so like the Switch Core, like we also for Kickstarters, like new games that are trying to actually become published, like the Hazelnut game that's coming out, we like really kind of heavily push that game. But the overall creator like of that game,
Mhm.
he did really good with actually being present on social media and stuff. So it was like when he found us and we found him, like, and we just kind of pushed everything. Like, so we like to support games, obviously with the Kickstarters, the indies, but like the community. So there's so many people that I talk to on a regular basis that it's awesome. I've met many friends. I know I've met people who will be lifelong friends at this point in my life that I never would have met without. I mean, because we're in different states, we're in different
Right.
countries, and I mean, overall, like the whole mission, I feel like has just been being advocates for what we truly believe in. So I will share to death people's content they create. I'll share any kind of like limited games, like when they're available. And I just talk up people, I talk up games, I talk up the industry because I truly have a passion for it. And I love everybody's ideas. Like I'm always the silver lining type of person. And I feel like most of the people who are involved in the Switchcore community are the same exact way. So it's really just people constantly striving to really do the most so the Switch can be the most.
Very well said. Awesome. Yeah, it's like I said, it's just such a great community, and I'm very happy to be a part of it, especially in Twitter. It's been really awesome. So, Tara, where can people find you on social media?
On social media, my Twitter is at PTERA, so Terra Victoria. I spell it like Terra as in pterodactyl. I have a personal Instagram at that, but my Nintendo Instagram that I really don't do the best at maintaining
Mhm.
would be Nintendo_gamer Terra. So I post the same collection pictures on there that I do on my Twitter.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I'll throw both of those in the description down below so that people can easily find you. And everybody out there listening, highly recommend that you follow Tara because she posts a lot of awesome stuff and she shares a lot of awesome stuff. So it's definitely worth following her and becoming an even bigger part of that community. Amazing discussion, but I want to hear from you all as well. So let us know in the comments down below whatever you have to say about this topic or any of the talking points that we talked about. If you love the Switch, if you hate the Switch, just sound off in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts. So I guess that's it. Thank you for joining this discussion. And if you listened all the way through to the end, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. As a matter of fact, if you did listen to the entire thing, tell me in the comments. I really want to know because it's going to end up being probably around 2 hours long after the editing and stuff. So if you stuck through to the end, we both really appreciate it, and you are awesome. And I hope everybody keeps playing games and having a good time. And we will see you all later.